Hey, what's happening? And welcome back to another episode of NOFOMO. I am your host, Woods. Today, we have Coach B on the line with us. Coach B is somebody that I've been watching and looking to for crypto news on a consistent basis. This is one of the people that I know that is highly immersed in the market on what is going on with crypto. So, Coach B, what is happening?
Hey man, it is a good time to be in the crypto space. And I mean, you guys are going to understand why once we get a chance to dig deep into this topic.
That's real, man. That's real. Cause I definitely need to know what's going on. Cause I definitely kind of been out of sync myself. So I know you are a good source to come to and talk about what's going on with what's going on in the crypto space. So first of all, I gotta ask you, is crypto really dead?
No, crypto isn't dead. But I tell you, just like the way a rat runs the wheel, until you take a moment to step off the wheel and observe, you're going to find yourself in a perpetual motion of not knowing what's going on.
Hmm.
So I'm challenging everyone to silence all the chaos in their background, just like how we had to fight to get on this call today. But
Right.
challenge themselves to say, what is it that people are not talking about and not showing me? And those are the things that we're going to talk about today.
That's real. That's real. So tell me what projects are really making a significant progress right now through the downtimes because while it's down and nothing's going right, nobody's talking about it, nobody's all hyped up on crypto, so you really don't see any hype behind anything right now. But what do you know is really going on?
Absolutely. So, one of the key things that we always talk about whenever we look at market cycles, especially in the crypto space, because they are far different compared to traditional markets, is what is the projects that are silently making noise even in the bear market. And that's usually a good indicator to an individual who has some interest in wanting to invest in the market. So first, like the biggest probably news that we've been pretty much preparing for itself is this Ethereum merge. And what they're essentially doing is changing their proof of how they pretty much do everything. And I was going to say they basically were, they believe proof of work and they're going to proof of stake. And
Hmm.
so what that is now their consistency is basically changing. But what makes some of this information a little interesting as you dig a little bit deeper into that is the fact that they're changing to like a staking protocol. Hence why Coinbase was one of the big players in this, which was if you had a Coinbase account, they basically were constantly marketing to you to stake your Ethereum in preparation of this merge, literally for the last year. And so now we finally are here, just weeks away from this merge, where we're going to get this shift. And for people that have had their Ethereum staked through Coinbase, they've been earning some form of a yield as they prepare for Ethereum 2.0. And so now this is going to be interesting because we've been in this bear market cycle now, literally for almost a year. And typically it's about 500 plus days in which a bear market cycle happens when it comes to crypto. And so it's amazing how some of these events, some of these projects, how they are continuing to build in the bear market while there is no hype to go behind it. That's literally the only catalyst that's keeping the market interested right now is exactly that. And that's something we're looking forward to as of next month. So now a lot of people are pretty much familiar with Ethereum. It's a utility based token. Just about every utility token is built on the Ethereum blockchain. And so we've had the opportunity to experience what's called layer ones and layer twos, which is Gen 1, Gen 2, and even Gen 3 protocols that are built on top of Ethereum. And so what a lot of catalysts and experts are basically saying is, well, what will happen if this thing fails? It could give us the black swan event that we're looking at from a TA standpoint that's going to give us that $600 Ethereum, which sounds pretty darn scary when you consider where the price is, and we hit 2,000 just here in the last couple of weeks. So this is where I like to always say, this is where you got to pay attention. If we know that Ethereum has had issues with scaling in the past, and then there was the reason why there was the birth of these layer ones and layer twos that have essentially said, you know what, thank you, Ethereum, for giving us a blueprint for what we need to do, but we got it from here. And that we saw that with the bull run really here in 2020 going into 2021. Projects like Solana, like AVAX, Cardano, which is a favorite to a lot of people, Near Protocol, where those are just some of the top ones in that category that have looked at essentially what Ethereum has done, and they put their own little spin and twist on it. And those are the projects that are building right now. You know, I look at, you know, Solana was a token that not too many people knew about. It was $1 before we really took off, and it went from $1 to $250 at all-time high, and right now it's sitting at about 30. So you can imagine, you want to always look at what are your possible outcomes for any given situation, especially when it comes to investing. And you want to be able to position yourself properly to look at an if-then scenario. Like if ETH does well, guess what? It's going to take off. And most of the time, those other layer ones or layer two follows Ethereum, which is what we happen to see with these relief rallies over the last couple of weeks. And at the same time, too, if it doesn't pan out the way that we expect it to, where is that money going to go, aka the liquidity? So those are just some things I want people to think about.
Right. And with all that being said, should people feel like they're late to the party? Because a lot of people feel like they truly missed out, you know, because so much has happened in between the first big cycle that happened and this recent big cycle.
Absolutely. So that is a great question. So the first thing I always tell people, I said, would you rather be late to the party coming through the front door, or you rather come in to find out the good news through the back door? And so I always say, I'd rather hear the good news through the back door. So while most people aren't paying attention because they don't see any increase in value really in the crypto space. And I mean, when we take a step back, like again, when I said step off the wheel and observe really what's going on, what is affecting crypto and really all risk on assets, which are basically assets in which people would invest in when there is healthy macroeconomic factors. But we haven't experienced that because of inflation. So we've seen every form of investment, stock market, crypto, commodities, just crash for the last year almost. And that's because of the global macroeconomics, things that's going on with inflation, different countries having to deal with issues, a rising dollar. Those are the things that most people in the crypto space doesn't understand about what's fundamentally driving the price down. And so that goes back to, once again, you got to observe, what are they not telling you? The only thing they're telling you is don't invest in crypto because it's not really a hedge against inflation. So now, but investing in dollars is not a hedge against inflation either. Because if you look at it at the end of the day, crypto itself, we're at, let's say right now, what, 20K? This time around last year, I think we were probably right around the same price, maybe a little bit less. The bull run started when we were at 4,000. So even if you got in, you're still up 5x. Now, what has happened to your dollar's purchasing power in the last year? Inflation is double digits. So even if you saved your money and not invested in crypto itself, you would have lost money with purchasing power, even though the price of crypto is down for all assets across the board. That's something to think about.
That's interesting indeed, because the dollar is stronger than it's ever been. And it's actually stronger than it's ever been in the last 20 years. For the first time in the last 20 years, the dollar is outpacing the euro.
That is absolutely correct. And so now you have to take a step back and say, okay, is the dollar really strong, or is it just really strong against other currencies?
Huh. That's interesting.
So
That's
you got to
very
ask it,
interesting.
because it's like, if it's strong, I shouldn't be able to go somewhere today, and then next week it's going to cost me more. What's really going on?
Right. Right. So it's a temporary blinder. It's smoke and mirrors.
Bingo. And that's the whole goal. When you understand the game and how the cards are played, then you understand. Like I said, I looked at the dollar index this past weekend, and it's something that I include in my TA videos on Sundays for the crypto weekly overview. And I mean, once that sucker reverse, it's a done deal, because it's only a matter of time before the dollar truly follows trend with the rest of the currencies. And it's because we have a failing fiat system, which is the biggest elephant in this room.
It's
All
the
fiat.
greatest Ponzi scheme ever.
Look, man, we both are understanding of what's going on here, which which is everything that we see that's going on with other countries. See, at first, nothing against anybody, but we
Right.
we were too proud as Americans to look and say, we see what's going on in third world countries. Then, oops, okay, something going on with China. We're going to pay attention a little bit more. And now it's Europe. So remind you, there's more dollars outside of the U.S. than there is in the U.S.
Wow.
And considering that more countries are finding other ways to adopt alternative ways to be able to conduct business and take care of supply chain management issues and accept different forms of payment than a dollar, because it's too costly to them. So if it's too costly to our partners in trade, how do you think it affects the people here?
Right.
Knowing that it's a system controlling it, where crypto is controlled by the people. So you can imagine, as we chat about it all the time, that we are anticipating, which is what we're getting right now, this decline in crypto.
Right.
And the fact that ultimately they gave you hindsight and insight at the same time in the last 2 years to what they're really attempting to do. And so yesterday I dropped I think it was a bill that was written earlier this year about how to interact with digital payments, crypto. It was basically like an infrastructure bill for crypto. They know, and I say they because y'all know who they are. I don't have to say no names. They know what has to be done exactly. Well, they know what has to be done to save fate for themselves, because they can't be accused of crashing the system when they're going to give you the problem and the solution at the same time. The biggest outlying factor of this, though, is how you position yourself is going to be the determination of what the rest of your future is going to look like financially. And and that's why people need education on crypto. They need to understand what CBDCs are, which are central bank digital cryptos, which basically means they're issued by the bank. And we are already well too familiar about how the banks run. Funny bank runs. Anyway, you need to know that you can have a ticket to freedom, because that's what crypto was built for, was freedom. It's the ability to have access and grant yourself freedom that comes with permission, and it comes with accountability. If you're willing to be accountable for your own future financially, you can have it with crypto. But are you ready to be able to take on that responsibility for yourself? That's something you have to think about.
That's real. Now, with everything going on, I wanted to ask you, what's your take on regulation?
Oh yeah. So here's the fun part. I know we've experienced some crazy things, especially this year. Now, can one say that was some of this set up to happen? Eh, from outside in, we can only speculate. And that's really what crypto is speculation with utility that has been tested and applied over the last decade to say that this is a way we can do things. So with regulation coming into area, I find it amazing how they can't come to an agreeable understanding about what they want to do. We've jumped back and forth between if it's classified as commodities or if they're securities, and certain tokens are this and certain tokens are that. Is all in all to say that they want regulation, but they really don't, because just as much as we enjoy the games, sure do they do also.
Mm. So
So I
so
so
it's
go
it's
ahead.
it's it's a mixture between them kicking the can and actually want to do something about it.
Exactly. And it isn't it funny how there hasn't been much of any talks about regulation, but when they seem to come up, the price of crypto slope slides, but then they never come to an agreement about what's going to be done. It's as if that news catalyst is comes out to drag the prices lower so they can enter. Because at the end of the day, you know, this market is about liquidity, is about ownership. And when you have not been properly informed. And I say that because there is a big problem with lack of information, misinformation about crypto, and individuals find themselves not knowing what to really believe when they're reading. And if they don't have a background in understanding economics, fundamentals, and technicals, they're jumping into a market not understanding how it functions. So I believe that there's going to be a handful of catalysts, rather from a macro standpoint and or from a fundamental standpoint, that's going to continue to drag and slide crypto lower. But at the end of the day, if you find yourself buying in these prices, which for me, I'm looking forward to 15,000, then you hold on for dear life because somebody did so much to bring the prices that low for a reason. That's what you have to ask yourself. Why are they driving the prices down, knowing that there are problems across the world with supply chain management and inflation, and you have a deflationary system?
Hmm. That's interesting indeed, because they're push. It's like they're pushing it down to take advantage of themselves, not with no consideration in how it affects everyone.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, crypto was really one of the first markets where there wasn't driven price wasn't driven by institutions. They didn't come on till later in the party. They didn't have much concern about crypto because it was such a small market cap. It wasn't much of any influence. We drove the market. Now you want to bring the big boys to the table along with all of the ideas about regulation. They want what's yours. And that's what I remind people daily. They want what's yours. And it's obvious because one of the main underlying discussions when it comes to regulation is they want regulation in place and they want specific criteria for people to invest in crypto, such as accredited investors. And so what does that mean? That means that for us that are young, risk takers, that we find crypto as a way, as a means to freedom, because we've taken time to learn the markets, we've taken time to learn the research, and we understand what happens here. But if they put this type of stipulation in place, it's going to basically X out all the people that have been driving the price of the market in the first place. And now it goes back to almost like the David and Goliath situation, which is accredited investors, they earn that title based on their net worth. And so if they want this asset class to be preserved strictly for them, they have to shake all the little hands out of the market. But remembering for you as the individual, if that's their goal, do we want to help them succeed in that?
So it's like they're trying everything they can to prevent from shooting themselves in the foot.
Exactly. They don't want to be looked at as the bad guys because they're rigging the markets to bring it lower. And at the same time, too, we have all these pent up crypto type banks that have popped up on the scenes during this bull run that have, interesting enough, taken possession of people's crypto, stuff like Voyager, stuff like Celsius, where now they're having to go through restructuring. But for most people, they're not going to be able to get back their whole investment. So now what happens to that company when they don't settle? And now people are only getting pennies on the dollar. They have enough crypto to turn around and offer to accredited investors, which I would say maybe what is in place, but something doesn't smell right with this entire situation. I tell people, I say every day, pay attention, follow the money, follow the trail. It's going to tell you what's really going on here, and do so by finding resources that are outside of what you see on TV, what you hear on the radio. Get into some podcasts. Come join us on YouTube. Come listen to our podcast. Stay plugged into what it is that we're talking about, because we're going to come and give you the non-filtered version of what's really going on here and why there is such a big push to get the everyday people out of this space, so that way it can be preserved for the wealthy people already.
And that's why I love you, because when you give the information, it's minus all the fluff, because so much of what they're feeding everybody is straight BS. And there's not many of us out there actually giving it from a perspective. Everyone out there that's giving information is more so like, oh, you got to get in, you don't want to miss this, you don't want to miss that. But it's not a perspective as it's cool, guys. Just look at it with a cool head, and this is how we're going to attack it. So and that's totally what NOFOMO is about. And one of the main reasons why I definitely wanted to have a conversation with you about it, because you always have a level head on how to approach this whole crypto situation.
Absolutely. I had a conversation with a group of my crypto friends yesterday, and I have been telling them, since I've been doing my YouTube videos here for probably the last month, I said, hey, I am in no way bullish right now. I said, we are getting some relief rallies because when you understand technicals, you understand that there are certain indicators that are showing you that prices are oversold. And if they're hitting levels that they've never hit before, then it's just in its nature to give some relief. And we've gotten that. We've went from 1,000 to 2,000 basically with Ethereum, which is a great return. And so I advise people, I said, when you come to the crypto space, it's usually the first question I ask, why? Why are you here? What is your goal to be here? Please don't say to make money. You can make money doing tons of things. It's like, you need to come here to be educated. If you want to be a savvy investor, which is my YouTube channel,
right?
You want to become that high level intellectual investor that takes advantage of opportunities when they're present, but do so when no one's talking about it.
Right.
For example, I said, when we had these really good relief rallies, we dipped from 17K up to, I think, what, 20, 25, almost 26K with Bitcoin. That's good ROI. Did we see an outperformance in altcoins? We did, which I tell people once again, every week. You want to be able to know where to go and look. Then, step one, research. Research what you need. You need insight on economics. You need understanding of fundamentals. And your third aspect is understanding how to read the charts. When you put those three together and you create a system for yourself, you've now accepted the responsibility over your financial future.
Hmm.
And if you want to do that with crypto, you do it right. Because if you do it right, all it takes is one cycle to change your financial outlook. And then the next steps from there is, how do I be a savvy investor?
Right. And like with that being said, discussing on the cycles, how different is this cycle than the last, and how could the next cycle play out based on speculation on how this cycle is playing out?
Absolutely. So I know that there has been, quite a fuss about how this cycle doesn't look like last cycle. And it really much sort of mimics, the one from either 2010 or 2014, which is, we had, a blow off top. We basically had a FOMO run in Bitcoin itself, and took the rest of the market with it without any proper retesting of areas of resistance from a technical standpoint. So you had the biggest marketing campaign ever in crypto. And I laugh because it's pretty sad. When we look at, what happened last year, around the world globally, because of the mess that we've been in for the last 2 years, you've had governments giving out money to everybody, loads of money. What happens when you give people money and no education? They gonna follow whatever is going to help them make more money.
Right.
And so what happened was, across the board, a lot of people made money in crypto, in the stock market, yet no one was there to help and teach them how to realize profits, which at the end of the day, we don't do ledger games. Guys, don't stare at your portfolio or your charts and say how much you're up until you realize it and it changes your life.
Right. That's real. And it's a way to keep yourself focus on the end game.
Absolutely. And I'm just sharing that from experience. I've seen my portfolio do something where, I didn't take the time to say, you know what, maybe I should take some off the table. And you come back and look and say, what happened? Is you, like I said, when you make the decision to say, I want to start investing, you need to also respond to yourself. I am going to be responsible. I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to continue to expand on my education. I'm going to connect with other like-minded people so we can hold each other accountable. And so when you shape up that mindset to become an investor, then now not only will you attract the type of money that you are looking forward to as far as ROI, but now you have the sound mind to be able to manage and do more with it. And so that's something I encourage everyone to be able to do, is not especially during this time, while we're in the bear market and we are expecting prices to consolidate, go lower. Like I said, I'm looking anywhere between 11 to 15K before we bottom out. And it's not going to be a time. It's not going to be a time frame. I said, technically, every bear market cycle is about 500 plus days, right? And so idealistically, that would put us in November, October. And so it's amazing how that happens, because it kind of lines up with something else that most people are not talking about right now, which is the ISO 2022.
Huh.
The infrastructure that is being put in place to really put the use of blockchain technology with certain protocols and certain projects to oversee and to understand how this is going to function with our financial systems. And so this is where the noise comes from with tokens like Ripple. And I'm sorry, somebody would be very upset with me because I said Ripple. XRP. You already know, bro. XLM, XDC, all of these tokens, surprisingly, that have been suppressed during this bull run. Like, I find it amazing and I will go there because, we don't FOMO and we don't filter that. XRP get hit with this very Iranian lawsuit, and you can't get this token nowhere. Yet we had Terra Luna crash, and then they came out with a 2.0.
Wow.
So that lets you know enough about what's really going on with this space. The tokens that are going to be implemented in this ISO 22 that are going to change the way our financial system will look, and it's supposed to be something that goes live automatically in November. And it's funny how that kind of lines up with when we can expect a bear market to kind of bottom out. It's not to say that we're going to go straight into a bull market, but we might bottom out price wise and consolidate before we head into next year. And by that time, I'm expecting the dollar to start to cool off if it hasn't already started now.
Right. Wow. Wow. So like, man, that all is very valuable information. And I really appreciate you breaking it down. I know that you have so much more that you can share with the people. And I definitely got to have you on for more extensive conversations on what's going on in this crypto space, because I really value that knowledge. I do appreciate you for coming on, but before you go, tell them, how can they get in touch with you? What's your social media handles and everything?
Absolutely. So I would say I'm really, really active on Twitter right now, because it's a space where, the more crypto savvy people are engaging, especially because I'm a big fan of NFTs. And so you can find me on Twitter at the handle Britty_joy. I drop occasional free information about TA, as well as up and coming NFT projects that I've partnered with, and great communities in that aspect. Stay tuned on Sundays as I do the weekly overview of the crypto market, where I have a wonderful group of people that give me picks to go over for the week. So be willing to pay attention to those overview videos and drop a comment on them so that you can have your favorite coin featured. And my YouTube channel is The Savvy Investor. I have some videos up there now, so feel free to go through any and all those things so that you can get familiarized with what the crypto space look like, what's going on, and what expectations we have for these upcoming weeks about when we can expect for prices to kind of simmer down. So I would say I'm most active on Twitter and YouTube at this moment.
Okay, that's a BET. Man, I do appreciate you coming on. And everybody, I do appreciate you for tuning in, because this is NOFOMO, where we have no fear of missing out in the market. We're here to focus and discuss the mindset and objective of being an effective and efficient trader. That's our thing. So if you don't want to miss out on these conversations, make sure that you tune in and subscribe, hit that like, and stay tuned for more conversations like this. Coach B, I appreciate you once again. Thank you for coming through. Let's have more conversations like this.
Absolutely. I would say, let's see what happens here. We'll be back very soon.
That's what it is. Y'all stay tuned. We out.
All right. Have a good one.